Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm your host, Tamiko Pugh, best-selling author, transformational strategist, life and business coach to purpose-driven women, and empowerment influencer. Affectionately called by many, the Empowering Diva. Each week, I'm bringing you inspirational conversations as well as actionable tips and strategies that move you forward in life and business. I believe that empowerment comes from within and can be achieved by honoring yourself, your values, and expressing your talents and gifts. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Now let's jump into today's episode of Living the Empowered Life. Hello and welcome to another episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamiko Pugh, affectionately called by many the Empowering Diva. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with award-winning STEM educator and advocate, Dr. Tasha. Dr. Natoshia Anderson, an award-winning STEM educator, advocate, author, podcast host, and engineer, works with minority women in STEM who feel overlooked and overshadowed to stand up and stand out in their personal and professional lives. She encourages them to get what you're worth, get your respect, get opportunities, grow your confidence, and grow your skills. All right, so you have heard her amazing professional bio. Now let's go ahead and dive into our conversation with Dr. Tasha. How are you, Dr. Tasha?
I am wonderful. I'm really grateful and honored to be here with you. I can't wait for this conversation.
Me either. I have been looking forward to this. So welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. So this conversation is I really want to center it around this conversation of STEM because that's what you do. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And you're an educator in this area, so you're going to educate me and educate some other people. I love the work that you're doing really as it relates to minority women in STEM. And so as a STEM educator that focuses on minority women in this particular field, you often say that women in STEM, they typically feel overlooked or overshadowed. So let's just kind of jump into this thing. Why do you think they feel overlooked or overshadowed?
That's a great question. And I'll just say this is my work. So having lived this experience, I know that feeling of being a contributor to projects because that's what we do in STEM. We're working on projects, we're working on big things. We may be one member of a team. We may be the member of the team that has a greater contribution, but we don't get the credit, right? And it's because we're in an environment that was not really made for us. And, what do you mean, Dr. Tasha, when you say it wasn't made for us? It is still a white man's world, straight up, point blank, period. And so when there are people who don't look like them in a space, they tend to want to act as if we're not there. Or, we said something, but they didn't quite hear it, so it's all of those things that are happening. And I can give you example after example after example where those things happen on a daily basis. So we are in spaces where we are making contributions to work and we're being overshadowed. We're being overshadowed by white men, by men in general, let's just say that. But then it's always like, well, there's always all these other reasons why your contribution wasn't that good. And so that's the work. It's like, how do I master that? How do I push through all of those things to make sure that people see me? Because unfortunately, that's still the name of the game. You got to be seen for people to know you,
Right.
And so giving them a safe space to be themselves, to come to know themselves in a way that unfortunately is not threatening to others, but is a way for them to still be able to contribute and and that they no longer feel overshadowed, that they no longer feel overlooked, that their contributions are valued, and that they are given opportunities, or they are awarded opportunities, or they have earned opportunities that is due because they've done the work, they put in the time, they have the skills, they've done the thing. So that's my work, and that's what's happening, and it's what's been happening. It's the
Mm-hmm.
quiet storm that people aren't talking about.
People aren't talking about it enough. And as you were speaking, it led me to think about before I even got into coaching and speaking and doing advocacy work. I'm a project manager by trade, a construction project manager building cell
Mm-hmm.
phone towers. And so as you were speaking and you're like, yeah, it's a white man's world. And to me, I'm wondering, you think they feel intimidated sometimes, especially if you're smart and you know what you're doing, you know what I mean? They get intimidated. And I remember, being on these conference calls with these older Caucasian men who have been in the industry for years, self climbing the towers and all that stuff, but me
Mm-hmm.
having to manage them and being overlooked, being overshadowed, not being heard on conference calls to the point where I would almost feel like, I was passive at first, and then I became like the angry Black woman because I wanted to be heard.
Right.
And so, as you were speaking, it kind of brought back those memories from my past life being a
Yeah, I'm
construction
sorry.
project manager.
But the thing is that all of that is true. Intimidation, huh? It's like so funny that you say that. It's like that's not something that I actually really thought about it, but it fits. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when it's because they don't know, we're so unexpected still. We're so unexpected, right? They still have thoughts and ideas of who it is they think we are. So when we show up in spaces and places that where we're not supposed to be in their mind, they don't know what to do. They do not know what to do. So their go-to is often to diminish and to, sort of make you shrink, so that way it doesn't, you don't matter because, like nothing you say matters, nothing you do matters because you're small. And so that's the tactic. And there's so few of us, and I say so few of us, like there's not, thousands of us out there, but in the grand scheme of things, there are so few of us that we can still feel alone. We can still feel like how do I do this, right? There's no help anywhere. And sometimes what happens is they will, if there's another woman in general, whether that's a white woman, Mexican woman, Asian woman, whoever, um, Hispanic, Latinx, anybody, they pit us against each other. So we can't even be allies to each other because they have set it up so that we must be in competition. And that's the other thing they do. So if I'm hearing her voice, I can't hear the other person's voice, and so on and so forth, which is not what we as women need to be doing in these spaces. We need to be allies. We need to be support. We need to be sisters in the sense that, we're a united front as opposed to us being competition. We collaborate, or collabosource. We don't hate on each other.
I like that collaborasource. I like how you put that. So, what do you think, Dr. Tasha? What can we do for women who are experiencing something like this? Like, what can we do to really stand out in
Oof.
STEM? Like, how can we stand out?
Well, the first thing I do when I'm coaching women is we get to the heart of the matter. Who are you? Right? Like that's the major thing. You're in a space where you really need to know who you are at this moment in time in your life. Because if you don't, then people will tell you things about you and you might believe them because you are not clear on who it is you are. And so um, that's the work. So, okay, who are you right now? What is it you want to accomplish here? Like, what are your goals? Those long-term goals, those short-term goals, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Let's really think this through. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be a project manager? Do you want to be the CEO? Do you want to start your own tech business? What is it you want to do? And then let's really map out. what that needs to look like, what you're doing tomorrow, what you need to be doing 3 months from now, what, those kinds of things. Because that, once you have a clear picture, here's a pathway for me to follow. I find that it has been easier for me when I have those things, right? So I do the same thing when people come to me for help, is that we go through it. Like, I need to know who you are, you need to know who you are. Because then when you show up in spaces, there ain't nobody in that space, in that room, that's going to tell you anything about yourself that you don't already know. So when it doesn't matter what they say, because you know who you are and you're clear and confident in that. So that to me means that you're coming out of the shell that you've been in, even though you didn't place yourself there, and you start showing up differently in spaces because now you're clear about who it is you are and where it is you're going. And so that's the first, or that's the program in a nutshell. But the first step for me is always figuring out who it is you are and what it is you're trying to do and where you're going. And that's been the work,
Yeah.
which I know you know.
I know. As you're saying that, I'm like, okay, so of course, it's Living the Empowered Life podcast. There's 6 principles to living the empowered life. And one of the principles is knowing who you are, walking in your authentic power, being exactly who you are and who you're called to be, knowing, what you want and knowing your worth. Because I feel like you said, when you know who you are, you can walk in a room and you won't feel intimidated. You can walk in a room and feel confident. You won't feel like you're being overshadowed because you know how to speak up for yourself. So
Right.
knowing who you are, when you said that, I said, oh, she about that life. When I say about that life, I mean that empowered life,
That's right.
living
That
the empowered life.
that's it. But that's right though, because I felt like, so to go back to my experience, I had full on experiences where, like, you've heard stories where women have said, I would say something, people would overlook it, or people would, pretend like they didn't hear it. Then the dude next to me would say the same thing, and it would be like it would be a great idea, and like they heard it for the first time. Well, unfortunately, that's a true story, and it's happened so many times, to the point to where after a while you want to stop speaking, like, because
Mhm.
it's like, I don't want somebody else to steal my idea and take credit for it, like in my face, like, be bold with it, right? Um, but then after a while, it's like, no, you will hear me, you will hear my idea. I'm going, so it's like you have to make a decision about what it is. Where's your line? We have a line in the sand. Where's your line? And sometimes, especially as a young woman in these spaces, you don't know where your line is. You just, when you reach it, but it would be helpful if you knew in advance,
Right.
hey, this is my line. This is where the rubber meets the road for me. I need to stand up for myself. And if I don't, one of the lessons that I learned a long time ago was that you tell people how to treat you. They take their cues from you, what it is you allow and what it is you don't allow. And so the more times you let that happen and you don't speak up, you don't say anything, then they think that that's okay. That's the way that they're going to treat you. The minute you say, hey, this is not right. I'm not going to be treated this way. You will respect me, or whatever it is, the language you're going to use, then they start to look at you differently, and it's like, oh, okay, well, now it's like, you can't treat me this way. And so I say they have to change. They don't have to change, but at least you've changed, and you've put them on notice. And that's how you stop being overshadowed and overlooked.
I like that. You said put them on notice. Put them on notice. So, Dr. Tasha, we're talking about STEM. And of course, we know what STEM stands for. We know what it is. It's a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But for those who are listening, they hear the word STEM. How would you break it down to a person who has no idea what STEM is?
Ooh, okay. I I like to think of STEM as the joining together of these disciplines for the betterment of our world. So, and I say this because, like, when you think, I think of STEM in like an average, ordinary, everyday kind of concept. So you think about your headphones, you think about your computer, you think about your mouse, you think about your phone, you think about, your car in essence. These are things that you average ordinary things and we say ordinary, but they're things you use every day in your life. All of those things that I mentioned above are STEM related products or STEM products. Now, we can get more complicated into like how those things came into being and all those things, but that's what STEM is. So it's a combination of technology and science, and engineering is how it all comes together, and mathematics is thrown in there because of course we need some numbers, right? So I don't want to, people get scared of STEM because they think you have to be, super smart. You had to get all A's and you have to be nerdy. I like being nerdy because that's who I am. But
Is
at the
that your
same
nickname?
time,
The nerdy queen?
the nerdy STEM queen,
Yes.
which I love, but it's not that. It is for me, it's like your average, ordinary thing that we do. Um, and you don't have to be smart in math. You don't have to have like science. You don't even have to like technology to do STEM. It is cooking. It is washing your car. It is baking. It is, doing those small things like your Excel spreadsheet. That's a whole mathematical, scientific, statistics, data analysis, all those things rolled into one. So I think we need to really reevaluate our view of STEM and make sure that we understand that it's the everyday things that we're doing. If you don't think you're doing STEM, I would beg to differ. And I bet you there's something you do during the course of your day that I can point to and say, yep, that's STEM. So we all do it. We just need to rethink about it or think about it again in a way that normalizes it for us.
Right. I love how you broke that down too. I mean, you just made it sound so easy because when you hear STEM, it sounds like it's something difficult, but the way you broke it down made it very relatable, especially like the joining together of these disciplines for the betterment of our world. Like, that's really it in a nutshell. So, breaking it down like that, making it easy to understand, because people can really be intimidated by the term. I didn't even really think about myself being a STEM girl until you started talking, and it reminded me of my project management construction days. I was like, oh, I was a STEM girl.
You was, yes, you. I mean, and that's the thing is like there are so many. I always call them people. People call them STEM adjacent or STEM related or what. I'm like, no, no, they're all in STEM. Like let's just call it a thing. If they're using technology in any way, shape, or form, you're utilizing a STEM concept. You're doing STEM, right? And I would actually have you delve a little deeper because I'm like, even if it was an Excel spreadsheet or using Word or you're using some other type of software, I bet you that you were able to sort of modify that would for your particular work. So
Mhm.
anytime you change a thing to make it easier or to make it work for your flow, well, look at you becoming a technologist. Look at you engineering something. Look at that, right?
I like
I
it.
mean, so you're a STEMinist, because that's what we call STEM women who are feminists. You would be a STEMinist, but at the same time, like it's not what you think it is. That's the thing. That's the thing I really want people to know. It's not what you think it is because you think it's like words and codes and like stuff that you'll never be able to comprehend. And it's really the opposite. You can code by text these days. Like you can
Wow,
code by text.
that's deep. That's some good stuff right there. Why do you think, well, let me rephrase it. Why is STEM important to women and girls? Not just women and girls, but why is it important to women and girls of color?
Oof. Okay. So now we're delving into sort of my story.
Yes, I
Um,
want to really get into your story. How did you get into being an educator and an advocate for STEM? And, why is that important for women and girls of color?
well, let me just say this. STEM for women of color in STEM, it's important that we're there. That we inhabit these spaces, that we are doing these jobs, that we are selling at these jobs, that we are telling our stories. It's important. It's important because of, diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, but it's important because our voice matters in rooms. These people are making decisions that directly affect our communities in a large sense, and we're not there. We're not there to talk about what it's like to actually live in these communities, to use these products from our perspective, and so on and so forth. That's why it's important that we're in these spaces. Our voices have to be heard. They're doing things, creating products, building houses and buildings and new products and all sorts of things with us in mind, except for we're not in the room to have a say. And that's wrong on so many different levels. And so that's it. But for me, my story is that I always wanted to reproduce myself. And I know that sounds funny. People laugh when I say it. But again, I'm a Black woman engineer, and there are not that many of us. And I would be in spaces and I would think, I don't get it. I don't get why I'm still the only, if I'm not the first and the only. And so I have literally devoted my life to reproducing myself, to making sure that young girls know about these careers, that they understand them, that they have opportunities where they're learning some of the activities we would do in these careers, that they're meeting others that look just like them, that they're able to touch them and feel them and be with them. And because it's just important that we do this STEM pipeline that people keep talking about, it has to include us. And we have oftentimes been left out of the equation because in our communities, until like recently, within the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years, STEM hasn't been a big thing. And I know that I say that and people would disagree with me, but if we look at the larger sense of it, it's not as big as if we were in some other communities. I'll leave it there. And it's because of two reasons, is especially at the educational level, STEM can be expensive. We know some of the schools in our neighborhoods don't have funds. So how do we do that? And so my job is to make sure that when I'm in a school, that I'm trying to locate funding so that they can get these opportunities. It's important. It's important for little girls to see themselves. It's important for little brown boys to see themselves, because there's money out here to be made. There are opportunities that will take you far beyond your current situation, current neighborhood, current schools, that you can have, but you don't know about them because STEM is not available. And that's incredibly sad to me. And so that's been my work.
Wow, you're doing great work. I mean, great work that's really needed. My husband's actually an engineer. He has a degree in engineering from the Ohio State University. But I appreciate his degree in engineering because he's also my podcast producer. So he's going to make us sound very good after this interview.
Well, I might need his help.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that offline, though. We'll see. But I'm just loving this conversation. I was talking to a young lady. Actually, her podcast will go live tomorrow morning. She's a Georgia Tech graduate. She's of Indian descent. She's been, I want to say, she's been a citizen probably for about, I think she said 7 years. And that's one of her goals too, is really helping brown women to get into engineering and STEM and things of that nature. Nice young lady. I want to say she's not even 30 yet, but she's doing a lot of great work as it relates to helping what she would consider her brown women and girls.
I love it.
To get into that area. So yeah, she's doing a really great job. I would love to connect you with her as well.
Yep. The more of us that are together, that's my thing. I'm always about, let's collaborate, or like I say, collabosaurus, because the more of us that are working together, the more I feel like the more opportunities that we have to reach girls,
Yes.
um, it's we just this is work we got to do. We have to do it. We can't leave it to the next person. We have to do it,
Yeah,
and that's
we
that.
have to do it. We really do. I'm just thinking back to your comment when you said you wanted to reproduce yourself. And when you first said it, I was like, what does she mean reproduce herself? And then as you were speaking, I got it, just actually just bringing more girls, women and
Mm-hmm.
girls into this industry. So just kind of reproducing yourself, which I think is amazing. Now, so speaking of that or being on that topic, so I heard from a little birdie that you have a new children's STEM book coming out.
I I do. Oh my God, I love this book.
Yes, tell
Um,
us about this book.
I'm sorry, I have a sinus infection and dealing with it, so
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Um, this book, it's called London Gets Curious, and it is an exploration of some fun, unique, cool STEM careers as told by my niece. It's a conversation basically my niece and I like to have. We have these weird, wacky conversations all
Mhm.
the time. She's 9. Her name is London, and I am her TT. And so I basically woke up one night with this story in my head, and I woke up and wrote it all down and did some research on some of these careers that we're talking about to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Um, and I wrote this book. And so it is a conversation between London and TT, and we go on this exploration where she gets to try on these 10 STEM careers, everything from an ethical hacker to a marine biologist, and some really fun ones in between. Um, and we talk it through about what it is that she would do in that career. She has some really kind of crazy questions that she asked me. um, it's just a lovely book, and it of course it has people who look like us in it. All of the characters are Black and brown people, and most of them are London trying on these different careers. So you'll see her as a drone pilot. You'll get to see her as a marine biologist, because again, that's the thing. I want you to be able to see yourself doing these things because you can. I don't want you to be limited by what you may be seeing outside of your window or in your school building or on your computer screen. Read this book and start to dream. That's what I want.
I love it. And so London is your niece, so she gets to have her name on the
Yes.
title of a book that's going to be around for generations to come. And you're impacting generations to come. And just the fact that you have your niece a part of this, I think that's so amazing. Just
Oh,
for
thank
her to
you.
even be able to experience that, she's an author, you might as well say. She's a co author.
Yeah. Oh no, her name's on the book. It's by me and her, because I couldn't imagine doing it without giving her credit. It's just a testament of who she is to me, and just how she's been impacted my life because she's so bright, so smart, and she asked like the off the wall questions. But I'm like, nope, we're going to answer this. We're going to do the research. I'm always like, okay, so you ask the question, so you must be curious enough to have thought it, and it came out. You said it, so we're gonna find the answer. If I don't know, if TT doesn't know, we're going to find it. And so I hope that when she's older, and I don't know, she doesn't know what she's going to be when she grows up. When she's older, I just hope that she never loses that quality, that curiosity, the willingness to know and to ask, because those are the things that you need to be in a STEM career.
And I mean, you've already introduced her to the topic. And so at this point, it's in her. I mean, she's a part of this book. Her TT is in this industry. And so you've already planted the seed, and you're going to plant so many other seeds with other children that get to read this book. Like, you're going to be able to impact so many people. I'm so excited for you.
Oh,
There's something about, especially children's books, being able to start at such a young age and read a book and see people who look just like you in this book. I mean,
Yeah.
that's dope.
Oh, thank you. And that was my hope because you know, I read a lot of books because reading is my thing. I feel like it's my hobby. So I have stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of books in here, and we have books in boxes down in my basement. Like it's ridiculous. And I can't even tell you that, how much money Kindle has gotten of mine.
Mhm.
um, but I realize that we have to start young. Like we can't wait until they're 16 or they're 18 or, and they're declaring a major. And then we're like, oh, why didn't you think of a STEM career? Right. No, we need to start them young, having the thoughts and the ideas of what it is they can do and can be, and fostering those, giving them opportunities where they can indulge in those, in that thought. So this book, I hope it opens people's minds. The little girls that read this book, I hope it opens their minds to the possibility of a thing. And I hope that their parents read these books and finds and seeks out opportunities so that their kid can engage in the things that they see. So that's my hope.
I love it. Well, congratulations on that. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. I mean, I really admire the work that you're doing and the impact because it is purposeful. I believe in doing purposeful work, making a difference. And so that's what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's hard being an entrepreneur, and I know you know that. And so, just having someone, um, I don't know, validate me today has been worth it. So, thank you.
Absolutely. So, a couple of other things. You have a couple of things going on here. So,
Mhm.
tell us about the STEM Power Hour
Oh, okay.
or Power Hour.
So if you want to know what it's like to work with Dr. Tasha, right? I host these periodically where it's generally 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes of conversation with me. It's the topic is on you. So if you book time with me for a STEM Power Her Hour, you bring the topic and we will have the conversation. There is no topic that is off limits during this time, because I like to think of this is your opportunity to vet me. And so you have all the power in this conversation. I am a vessel. And that's the way I look at that.
I like it. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. So we were talking about you, some of the points that you were making were very in alignment with some of the principles of living the empowered life. And so we talked about even just doing purposeful work. One of the principles is to understand your life purpose or uncover your life purpose in
Mhm.
doing purposeful work and walking in your authentic power, knowing exactly who you are. So it's very much so in alignment. And so, what does it mean to you to live an empowered life?
And I'll say this, it's taken me a long time to get here, to really understanding what that means. For me, that means being authentically myself. And that means owning every single part of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's knowing all of those parameters of who makes Dr. Tasha, so that when I do walk into spaces or when I show up at a place, I know exactly who's speaking, who showed up, because I'm clear on who I am. That means that I'm always empowered. And that means that, and it's an internal empowerment. I can't wait for external validation to come. I have to be empowered, which means that I have to know myself. I have to know my flaws. I have to know my gifts, my talents, my skills. I have to know and be certain of those. And so, being authentic has been really big, and being true to my whole self, like the little girl, that person has taken so much work, um, that now when I have people who come to you and say, "Hey, Tasha, I need you to can you be a little less?" And I'm always like, "No, mm-mm, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to dumb down. I'm not going to dim my light. I'm not going to shrink down. I'm not going to be somebody. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to be fake. When you hire me, when you say you want me to speak in a place, you say you want me to be your coach, you're going to get all of this. That is for me living the empowered life.
And it is, I mean, that is living the empowered life. And you know what? I can attest to this, everything that you're saying. Um, Dr. Tasha, y'all, she's going to speak her truth. One thing about you, you will speak your truth. And I know this because we both sit on a leadership team of a women's, I guess you would call it a women's empowerment organization.
Yeah.
And in our meetings, I'm like, look at Tasha, go on, girl. She speaks. She is going to let her voice be heard early in the morning while I'm sipping my coffee, like, I'm trying to get through the second cup of coffee and wake up. Tasha done already let her voice be heard. And I love it.
Oh, thank you. But you have to. It's just like I'll just say this. It again, like I said, it took me a long time to get here. And I can say that and the journey wasn't easy. It was ugly. It was a mess. And so I feel like I'm at a point to where like, why would I let you take me backwards? Who does that?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so for me, it's just like I wore a shirt purposefully in this meeting I was at the other day that said, "Be you, they'll adjust." And
Yes.
I'm like, right, or they won't, and that has to be okay with you.
I like it. Be you, they'll adjust. I love that. And just, the journey. Like there's a journey that it takes to get to be this empowered woman that people see. And oftentimes people don't know the backstory or the journey that we had to go through to get to this place today. And it's so much inner work. You really have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah,
You got to be
yeah.
do the inner work.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's the thing that I want for the women of color who, who work with me when I'm on stages and I'm talking. It's always about, hey, who are you really? And what are these skills, talents, and gifts that you have that can help you along the way? And so I'm always trying to get people to look inward first before you start looking outward, because the outward can be a fallacy. It could be a mirage. It could be an affected image. And so what's inside is the real. And so you need to fix that first. And I say fix, that's relative. You need to deal with, settle, get some therapy if that's what you need, settle all that stuff first, and then look outwards, because then you'll see the real. That's how it works.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, this was a great conversation. And Dr. Tasha, I want to make sure I'm able to support whatever you have going on. Do you have any other upcoming initiatives? I know we talked about the STEM Power Hour. Any other initiatives or events coming up that we can support?
Oh, okay. So I will be on the Hot Girl No. They're a podcast, but they're on They're not LinkedIn. They're IG Live on Thursday at 7 p.m. So if you're on IG at 7 p.m., look for Hot Girls No. And join in. You can ask any questions. We'll be talking about my book. We'll be talking about my podcast. We'll be talking all things STEM. So there's that. I'm on the Power Hour podcast. That's June the 1st. That's at 8 p.m. So again, IG.
Mhm.
So look for Power Hour podcast. I'll be there. Upcoming, I will be at the Women Tech Global Conference. My topic is how to manage your boss. So I give you a couple of five, couple to five ways in which you can help to manage your boss. And that will actually help make your life a lot easier as you navigate this space. And so that is on June the 9th. My topic or my time frame is from 9 a.m. to 9:45. I know that's early, y'all, but it is going to be recorded. So if you miss it, you can go back and view it. And then I will also be at the Atlanta Girls School Unconscious Bias Summer Institute on June the 10th. And I believe that you have to register for that conference. And
And that's for
so
young girls.
No, this is actually for educators and those who are working in the STEM education space. So I will be talking about stereotype threat and how to diminish stereotype threat in a STEM classroom by using storytelling techniques. So all of the things that I think are important, all of the things that are happening in real time. So I'm going to enjoy the next couple of weeks of speaking out and speaking up and standing up for women of color in STEM. I'm going to be me and they will adjust.
Unapologetically.
Okay.
Unapologetically. So I'll share all of this information on social media. Let us know how we can follow you and stay connected.
Okay. So I have a website, so you can go to my website and see what you can see. It's a www.drtasha.com. On IG, you can follow me. I am the Nerdy STEM Queen. On Twitter, I don't know. On Twitter, I am Dr. Tasha. Tasha is spelled Toshia, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me say that again. It is Dr. DRTOSHIA 11 on Twitter. And on LinkedIn, it's Dr. Tasha. So that's where you can find me. Hit me up, y'all. Let me know what you think about the things I'm posting. And, if you want to be a part of STEM Power Her Hour, I'm for it. So thank you again, Tamiko, for just letting me ramble away.
You did not
but
ramble. You were dropping some nuggets, and I'm actually not done. Before we close
oh,
out,
okay.
I do want you to share. I mean, you shared some great nuggets up to this point, but I would love for you to close out with a final thought or some type of charge for the audience.
Oh, okay. So here's what I normally say. I I have two charges. One, if you are a parent of a young girl or a young boy for that matter, I need you to just be willing. Because part of what the struggle has been with some STEM opportunities is that parents are like, I don't know how to do this. And so in their mind, they're like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I need you to be willing. I need you to do the research. There are many STEM opportunities out there that are free or have reduced options. If this is part of the issue for you, please do your work and be a part of exposing your child to something that he or she has never seen before. Please be a part of that movement and that effort. The other one is for young women, older women in STEM. I need you to do two things. One, hey, go to my website and check it out. But B, I need you to really do the work about figuring out where you want to be in that space, because that goes a long way with helping you figure out and navigate your pathway. While you're doing the internal work, the charge for me is that you need to have a career map or career plan, whatever you want to call it. I usually call it a career map, so that you can be clear about where it is you want to go. And therefore, other people's voices won't matter. If this opportunity that they're offering you is going to take you off the path, then that's a no. And you have to be willing to say no. And we get to practice that too during my coaching program. So that's my charge.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Tasha, aka the Nerdy STEM Queen. You just shared so many great nuggets. I took away a lot of notes on my cell phone because I love to take notes to tweet later on. But I look forward to supporting you, your upcoming events and initiatives. And thank you again for joining us on Living the Empowered Life podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for tuning in to another powerful episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast. I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with STEM educator Dr. Tasha, and that you are able to draw some inspiration as you continue your journey of living an empowered life. And remember, small opportunities are the beginning of great achievements. to identify and live your life purpose. It's time to live life according to your values. It's time to set goals that move you forward in life and business. It's time to unleash your confidence. It's time to fearlessly walk in your authentic power. Ladies, it's time to live the empowered life.